Heads up if you get a gift card this Christmas. Gift card scams are a growing trend. Here to talk about that is CNET's Sherr. Ian, first tell us how prevalent this problem has become and how much it actually costs us.
It's crazy how big an issue this has become. Part of what has really gone on is that we don't actually know how large it is. We have kind of a sense from around the edges. So far, the Federal Trade Commission, which is the only people who really have any data around this, says that it has cost people hundreds of millions of dollars across this country. And the average loss per person is somewhere around $840, which in a world where most people can't afford a surprise $1,000 bill is crazy. And part of what's going on here is that we are dealing with a world where when these things happen, oftentimes there are no consumer protections. Retailers do not have a legal obligation to help people deal with whatever happens. They often say, too bad, that's really sad. I hope you are able to handle it, and they tell you to go on your way. And as a result, a lot of people have to bear this financial burden on their own versus credit cards and a lot of other places that when you have identity theft will protect you.
And what are some examples of how scammers trick us into handing over these types of payments? You would think that we'd be able to recognize it by this point.
Yeah, one of the things that I did in reporting out the story for CNET was that I really wanted to learn why people do end up falling for these scams, because when you describe them, it sounds ridiculous on its face, right? The idea that the FBI is calling you and that you have a warrant out for your arrest, and the only way to not be arrested is to talk to a lawyer who's on the phone, and you can only pay with gift cards, or the IRS wants you to pay back taxes with gift cards. It just doesn't make sense. But when you get someone into an emotional space, and there's actually research around this that a lot of fraud experts have gone into, they say that you just can't make good decisions when you are in a fight or flight mode. And as a result, a lot of people, not just the elderly, by the way, a lot of people who are Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, have all been scammed by this.
And Ian, something that concerns me is that you say it's sometimes worse than identity theft. Explain that.
Yeah, part of what really surprised me about this issue is that identity theft, while it's enormous, right, and it hits us, it's one of the leading causes of fraud in this country. One of the things about it is that it has consumer protections built around it. There's actually a law that was written in the 70s that says that if you have a charge put on your credit card that you did not authorize, you are not responsible for it. You obviously have to prove it, but generally speaking, you get your money back. With gift cards, there is zero types of laws like that. So as a result, if you have someone who you hand over a gift card to and they lie to you about what they want or who they are, there's no way to get that money back.
And we may think that most victims are elderly, but you say that's not necessarily the case. You already went into this a little bit, but it's just definitely more prevalent than we all think.
Yeah, there's a lot of research out there now that's actually starting to show that Gen Z and millennials are falling for this stuff actually even more than the elderly. And this is something that's really confused a lot of fraud experts, because the common wisdom is that this is grandmas and grandpas who are not tech savvy who are getting scammed. But in reality, it's hitting a lot of younger people because they are so much more used to dealing with gift cards, right? A lot of us have grown up with them. And then also they're used to getting these kind of requests from over the internet. And as a result, they fall for them.
And I know you said that retailers can't really do anything to help you when you are stuck in this kind of a scam, but are they doing anything to help curb this from happening?
Yeah, retailers definitely have chosen to avoid as much of the hard answers as they can. And I go through this a lot on in my stories on CNET. You know, part of the concern that a lot of the experts have is that these cards aren't traceable, and this is something that's fixable. We have credit cards that are easily traceable, and also trying to slow down how people buy these gift cards. A lot of retailers don't want that to happen. So as a result, instead, they decide to oftentimes either They can choose to make the person whole and say, look, we feel bad for you. This is not something that should have happened. Here's your money back. But there's no legal requirement that they do that.
And how can we avoid falling victim to this? And what should we do if we have been duped?
The only thing that is consistent, when I've listened to hundreds of hours of these scams, and one of the things that is consistent is they always ask for the payments in gift cards. And there is no legitimate business who will ever ask you to pay for anything with a gift card. So if that's the one thing you take away from me, if someone calls you and asks you to pay with a gift card, hang up. Tell them Ian said it's okay. Go ahead. If you do get scammed, the one thing that you can do to kind of fight back against this is honestly that you need to make sure that you go to companies like AARP and other organizations that will at least help you to kind of protect your identity and make sure you aren't affected any other way. You can file a report, but oftentimes police won't even take the details. They'll just write down your name and the amount of money you lost.
All right, a lot of good information there, Ian Sherr with CNET. Thanks so much. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.